In a development that highlights the complexities of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a three-day ceasefire declared by Russian President Vladimir Putin has been marred by alarming reports of violations. As the ceasefire initiated at midnight on May 8, 2025 aimed to coincide with the upcoming Victory Day celebrations, both Ukraine and Russia have accused each other of breaching the terms, almost immediately raising questions about the sincerity of Moscow's intentions. According to Ukrainian officials, Russia has violated the ceasefire over 700 times within its first 12 hours, with the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha citing 734 breaches in 63 assault operations. In stark contrast, the Kremlin claims that Ukraine has committed 488 violations, insisting that its troops are adhering to the ceasefire. Tragically, the violence continued unabated, with reports indicating that a missile strike in Sumy resulted in the death of a civilian woman. Further complicating the narrative around the supposed pause in hostilities. Amidst these tensions, Putin hosted Chinese President Xi Jinping in Moscow, marking a significant moment for both leaders as they seek to strengthen their partnership. During their discussions, they emphasized the need to address the root causes of the conflict, which from Russia's perspective includes ensuring Ukraine does not join NATO and the removal of President Volodymyr Zelensky. Analysts view this summit as not just a diplomatic gesture but a strategic alignment of two nations increasingly isolated by Western sanctions. The ramifications of this ceasefire are profound. Experts suggest that while Putin's announcement may be a tactical pause, it also risks escalating tensions should either side perceive a violation. Ukraine remains skeptical of Russia's commitment to peace, arguing that the Kremlin's history of broken truces suggests this latest ceasefire could be merely a facade to regroup and reinforce its positions. In the eyes of Ukrainian officials, any military advantage gained during this pause could lead to a dangerous escalation of conflict. Parallel to these developments, Uzbekistan is conducting investigations into over 1,100 of its citizens suspected of fighting for Russia in Ukraine. The Uzbek government's response underscores the broader concern among Central Asian nations regarding their citizens' involvement in foreign military conflicts. Uzbek authorities have reiterated that participation in such actions is illegal and could result in severe penalties, including imprisonment. This scrutiny reflects the growing unease in Central Asia as Russia increasingly relies on foreign recruits to bolster its military amidst heavy losses. As the situation unfolds, the international community watches closely. The interplay between military strategy and geopolitical alliances will likely shape the next phases of this conflict. With significant military operations still ongoing and a backdrop of diplomatic engagements, the coming days are poised to be critical. The outcome of Putin's ceasefire, the effectiveness of Ukraine's military strategies, and the implications of foreign involvement will not only influence the conflict's trajectory but also redefine regional dynamics in the years to come. Tensions between Russia and Ukraine continue to escalate as recent assessments reveal a complex and deteriorating battlefield situation. On May 7, 2025, the Institute for the Study of War (ISW) detailed the ongoing dynamics of the Russo-Ukrainian conflict, emphasizing the challenges faced by both sides and the implications for broader geopolitical stability. U.S. officials have highlighted Russia's steadfast refusal to engage in a ceasefire agreement, with U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine General Keith Kellogg asserting that this intransigence is a significant barrier to peace. Russia is not winning the war, Kellogg stated, pointing to the failure of Russian forces to secure positions in key areas like Kherson Oblast and their inability to reach major cities such as Kyiv and Odessa. The ongoing attrition rates among Russian troops further underscore the declining efficacy of their military strategies since the conflict escalated in 2022. Despite these setbacks, Kellogg reiterated Ukraine's commitment to a 30-day ceasefire proposal initially suggested by U.S. President Donald Trump. He noted that Ukraine is prepared to implement a ceasefire in place, which would involve both parties withdrawing 15 kilometers from the front line to create a demilitarized zone. However, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov responded by claiming that Russia had not received any proposals from Ukraine. indicating a continued stalemate in negotiations. As the diplomatic landscape remains fraught, military actions persist on both sides. Ukrainian forces have reportedly advanced into southern Tetkino-Korsk Oblast amid ongoing limited attacks in the region. Geolocated footage indicates that Ukrainian troops have gained control over parts of Tetkino, although Russian forces claim to have repelled these advances. This contest for territory highlights the fluid nature of front lines in the conflict, with both sides vying for strategic advantages. In a significant escalation, Ukrainian forces have also launched long-range drone strikes targeting defense industrial facilities and airbases within Russia. Notably, a strike on the fiber optic systems plant in Saransk, a key facility for Russian drone operations, has been reported, alongside attacks on other critical military infrastructure. These strikes demonstrate Ukraine's increasingly sophisticated drone capabilities and its focus on disrupting Russian military logistics and operations. As Russia gears up for its Victory Day celebrations on May 9, authorities are expected to test their ability to disconnect vast regions from the internet, purportedly for security reasons. This move, interpreted by analysts as an attempt to suppress information regarding potential Ukrainian strikes, may further exacerbate public dissatisfaction as citizens face disruptions to essential services. The Kremlin's efforts to control the narrative around the conflict indicate a growing concern over domestic perceptions of the war's progress. On the diplomatic front, Russian President Vladimir Putin has solidified ties with Venezuela through a new strategic partnership agreement aimed at enhancing military cooperation and countering U.S. influence in the region. The agreement comes amidst ongoing reports of Russian war crimes, including the execution of Ukrainian prisoners of war and the use of chemical weapons, drawing condemnation from international observers. In a related development, Ukrainian military intelligence has achieved a notable victory by downing 2 Russian Su-30 fighter jets with the newly developed Magura 7C drone, underscoring the evolving nature of aerial warfare. This achievement highlights Ukraine's growing capabilities in drone technology and its potential implications for naval engagements. As the conflict shows no signs of abating, the dynamics on the battlefield and in diplomatic negotiations will continue to shape the future of the region. The international community remains watchful, with potential implications for global security and stability as countries reassess their military strategies in light of Ukraine's innovative approaches to warfare. The coming weeks are critical, as both sides navigate the complexities of combat and diplomacy in a conflict that has already reshaped the geopolitical landscape. In a significant display of unity, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening bilateral ties, positioning themselves as allies against what they describe as international bullying, primarily attributed to the United States. This declaration emerged from a meeting in Moscow on May 8, 2025, where both leaders emphasized their intention to deepen cooperation across various sectors, including security, economy, and international relations. During a joint press conference, she stated China and Russia must stand together against unilateralism and bullying. Our partnership is not just a strategic choice, it is a necessity in today's world. Putin echoed these sentiments, describing their relationship as friends of steel, a phrase that underscores the resilience and durability of the China-Russia alliance. The two nations have navigated a complex geopolitical landscape, especially as tensions with Western nations have escalated in recent years due to issues ranging from trade disputes to military interventions. The meeting comes at a time when both countries face increasing scrutiny and pressure from the West. With the U.S. imposing sanctions and seeking to isolate Russia following its actions in Ukraine, the partnership has been portrayed not just as a counterbalance to Western influence but also as a means of enhancing both nations' economic and military capabilities. According to a recent report, trade between China and Russia reached record levels, with bilateral trade volume exceeding $200 billion in 2024, demonstrating the tangible benefits of their alliance. Analysts suggest that this deepening relationship poses significant implications for global politics. The alignment between China and Russia represents a shift in the balance of power, said Dr. Elena Ryabova, a geopolitical analyst. As these two nations collaborate more closely, they could challenge the existing international order dominated by the US and its allies. This partnership is not only strategic in military terms but also economically advantageous as both countries look to reduce reliance on Western markets and technologies. Furthermore, Xi and Putin have committed to working together on global issues such as climate change, terrorism, and public health, showcasing their desire to play a more prominent role in shaping international policies. Xi remarked, "Our cooperation will not only benefit our nations but also contribute to global peace and stability." The leaders have also set their sights on expanding cultural and educational exchanges, emphasizing the importance of mutual understanding in fostering a resilient partnership. As this alliance continues to evolve, it remains to be seen how Western nations will respond. The ongoing conflicts and economic sanctions may push both China and Russia further into each other's arms, solidifying their stance against perceived external threats. Observers are keenly watching for any shifts in strategy from the US and European nations, which may need to reassess their approach to diplomacy and engagement with these two powers. In conclusion, the Xi-Putin meeting marks a pivotal moment in international relations. As two of the world's largest nations align more closely in the face of common challenges. As they navigate the complexities of their respective domestic and foreign policies, the implications of their partnership will likely resonate across global markets and geopolitical landscapes in the years to come. Future developments in this relationship will undoubtedly shape the contours of international diplomacy and economic strategies moving forward. In a significant diplomatic maneuver, Ukraine is actively seeking to galvanize international support to pressure Russia into agreeing to a 30-day ceasefire amid the ongoing conflict that has gripped the region since 2022. This initiative was underscored during discussions led by Andriy Yermak, President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff, who reported on Thursday that senior officials from the US, France, Britain, and Germany engaged in talks to explore this potential ceasefire. While details regarding the timing of these talks remain undisclosed, Yermak emphasized the consensus among the involved parties on the necessity of an unconditional ceasefire as a preliminary step towards achieving a just and sustainable peace. He stated, "We also discussed instruments of pressure in case Russia refuses the initiative or violates the agreements, indicating that the West remains prepared to respond if Moscow does not adhere to any ceasefire terms." Ukraine's proposal for a comprehensive ceasefire contrasts sharply with Russian President Vladimir Putin's recent suggestion of a mere 3-day truce coinciding with Russia's commemorative events marking the defeat of Nazi Germany. Yermak dismissed this limited offer as a political manipulation, asserting that it is not genuinely aimed at fostering peace but rather at facilitating a military parade in Moscow. This ongoing rhetoric illustrates the deepening divide between the two nations as Ukraine continues to accuse Russia of escalating military actions. As the situation evolved, reports indicated that even as a ceasefire was declared, hostilities persisted in eastern Ukraine, leading to accusations from Ukrainian officials of multiple ceasefire violations by Russian forces. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha claimed that Russia had breached the ceasefire over 700 times within hours of its announcement, calling it a farce. Such claims raise concerns regarding the viability of any negotiated peace and showcase the volatility of the situation on the ground. In parallel to these diplomatic efforts, Zelensky also reached out to German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, congratulating him on his recent election and reinforcing the importance of Germany's support for Ukraine. The discussions highlighted the potential for enhanced Ukrainian-German cooperation across various sectors, with both leaders agreeing to coordinate their efforts towards establishing a lasting peace framework. The backdrop of these discussions is further complicated by the political landscape and the U.S. former President Joe Biden. In a recent interview, criticized Trump's approach to the Ukraine crisis, labeling it as modern-day appeasement. Biden's comments reflect concerns about the erosion of trust between the U.S. and Europe under Trump's leadership, particularly regarding NATO and the broader implications of U.S. foreign policy in the region. In the context of economic collaboration, Ukraine's parliament has unanimously approved a landmark economic partnership agreement with the United States aimed at enhancing bilateral trade and investment, particularly in the minerals sector. President Zelensky expressed gratitude to the lawmakers and emphasized how this agreement will lay the groundwork for future economic cooperation and security collaborations with the U.S. as Ukraine continues to navigate these complex geopolitical waters. The coming weeks will be pivotal. The outcomes of the proposed ceasefire discussions and ongoing international diplomatic efforts may very well determine the trajectory of the conflict and the prospects for peace in the region. With sustained pressure from Ukraine's allies and an increasingly assertive stance from Kyiv, the international community watches closely, hoping for a resolution that may finally bring an end to the hostilities.